Introduction to Foresight. In this presentation, we will be looking at where we are in the process, Policy Horizons Canada's approach to foresight, and how the foresight tools fit together for Canada Beyond 150. Canada Beyond 150 weaves together three mutually supportive approaches at every stage of the project plan. Foresight, enabling strategic conversations about the future, recognizing complexity and interaction between different systems. Design, putting the citizen and the person first, in designing and co-creating plausible interventions that could help. And engagement, creating intentional, purposeful engagement strategies to meaningfully collaborate with partners and stakeholders, especially the marginalized and hard to reach. The Foresight component of Canada Beyond 150 weaves together environmental scanning and vision into one coherent whole. What is Foresight? Foresight is a tool that helps us unpack our unconscious mental models. It lets us have a structured conversation about the future. We're going to give you some tools to do this. Foresight is a skill we all use regularly. Everyone builds mental models about the way the world works, from the images, experience, knowledge, and stories we carry in our minds. We use our mental models to run movies in our mind so we can explore alternative paths that help us make the best decision. Here are some examples of how we use mental models every day. Consider your thought process when planning the best route to a store across town. You might recall that one road is closed for construction, anticipate that another road will be slow due to cars parked along the side today. You think of a third route, with light traffic, a pleasant view, and a potential stop at your favorite coffee shop along the way. Or try this. Close your eyes for a moment to picture yourself in your kitchen with someone you know. Think of a question you want to ask them. Ask the question and see what happens. Now open your eyes. Did your intuition suggest how they might respond to your question? We use such mental models every day to guide our actions. In Horizons work, we use guided imaging exercises and other foresight tools to surface participants' mental models about the world. There are many interpretations of foresight. Horizons' particular view of foresight places an emphasis on systems, surfacing mental models, and testing assumptions. Horizons communicates the following points. Future studies is a discipline that includes the subdiscipline of foresight. It has been around for about 60 years. Graduate degrees are awarded, and there is a large, robust global community of foresight practitioners. It has been and is being used quite extensively in the private sector, and more recently in the public sector. Foresight uses inputs generated from scanning in a systematic process that seeks signs of change, explores how these changes can interact, and examines how these interactions could lead to surprises that may disrupt the expected future in the next 10 to 15 years. Horizons takes a systems approach, recognizing the importance of complexity and how one particular element could interact with another and cause significant disruptions to the system as a whole. Foresight allows us to surface the assumptions underlying current policy, question their validity, and maybe even replace some of them with more robust ones. Foresight is a human trait that allows us to consider a problem, explore options, weigh pros and cons, and in so doing, develop possible strategies and work towards desired outcomes. The Horizons Foresight method builds on this capacity, especially our ability to visualize systems undergoing change. Foresight tools help people share, explore, and test their mental models about how the world is changing and what it means for their organization. This diagram is where we begin our foresight journey. You will see this diagram periodically in these slides as we unpack the components of the foresight process. These are taken from our Horizons Foresight Training Manual, which is live on our website at horizons.gc.ca. The Horizons Foresight Method. Horizons uses a rigorous and systematic approach to foresight that allows us to test assumptions against a range of plausible futures and identify policy challenges and opportunities. The slide shows the method that Horizons developed to do foresight and train public servants with whom we co-create. Each step includes a number of different tools. The process consists of framing the system under study by determining the focal question and developing a domain map in order to identify key elements in a system and the relationships between them. Identify current, commonly held assumptions about the system under study. These are collected at the outset and then put aside until the end. Scan to assess relevant trends and identify weak signals and insights that are pointing to change within a particular system. Scanning continues throughout the entire process. Explore major change drivers impacting the system under study and their interactions through the use of various tools, such as influence cascade and cross-impact matrices. Develop scenarios to explore a broad range of distinct, plausible, and strategically useful futures. Identify potential policy challenges and opportunities. Test the original list of assumptions against the scenarios to identify areas of vulnerability. If vulnerable, develop a more credible assumption. This is a very fluid, dynamic, and iterative process, which allows us to build upon each step as we gain a better understanding of the system under study. This will be our path for this process. As we're doing participatory foresight and not strategic foresight, we will be considering some of the steps in a different order. The purpose at this point isn't to narrow our focus to one small domain or area, it's to look at the system at a higher level, to try and understand the whole system, how it fits together, and how it may change in the future. At the Futures Fair in November, we will begin to pivot from understanding the system and how it may change to considering policy challenges and opportunities in the future space. That's when we begin to fly down from 35,000 feet to closer to the ground. Let's unpack the foresight process a bit so you can see where all the pieces will go. We use 3 maps to help make sense of the system under study. A domain map answers, what is this area, what is in, and what is out. There may be 30 to 50 stickies in this map. A stakeholder map answers, who matters. There may be 20 to 30 groups, organizations, or populations in this map, which may be high-graded to 5 to 7. The structural system map answers, what are the structural elements in the system? This will help us visualize the system and identify how the system may change in the next 15 years. By unpacking the domain in these 3 ways, we get a better understanding of what the system is. After the system maps, we will do weak signals, insights, and change drivers next session. You have already been discovering weak signals for a few weeks now. These feed into insights, which are weak signals that have answered the question, and then what happens? You've already seen one tool for doing this, namely the influence cascade. We can say that influence cascades inform the insights we will generate and present at the Futures Fair. Also next session, we will look at identifying change drivers. What are the prime movers in our respective systems 15 years from now? The change drivers are pretty significant, in that 3 major components of the Foresight study are based around them. We built influence cascades from change drivers to understand future consequences of our drivers. We do a cross-impact exercise on our drivers to understand what interactions occur from the pairs of the drivers. Those who attended Day 2 of the launch conference will appreciate the amount of interesting content generated by these exercises. The insights that follow from using these tools will go into a special table called the Structural Scenario Matrix, which builds up our scenarios piece by piece. We turn to this next. This is a picture of a structural scenario. You don't have to memorize this table or completely understand how to use it yet. We will have a session that talks about scenarios later on. For now, you need to know that your team will identify change drivers, which form the structure for the top of the scenario building matrix, and elements in your systems map, which let you describe the world at a given point in time. We take the change drivers that we discovered earlier to build the scenario. How did they look in each scenario? Here, we use some drivers and elements from our Future of Asia study. You'll have different ones. In each cell, you put content from your influence cascades and cross-impact matrices. This is where that thinking about the future content goes. We then look at the lenses we get from the system map. Here, what does manufacturing look like? How do work and jobs change in the future? Some of the cascade diagrams and cross-impact matrix content goes here as well. Finally, we look down each column of the scenario table to get one scenario, one plausible future, and we use these in the next step. The structural scenarios are where we build plausible futures, futures that we can get to, that we may live through. Now we want to make sense of them for ourselves and for others. We use our interviews, cultural probes, and other engagements to build personas. Personas are abstractions of people that are distilled from live interviews and from coding. They make plausible persons that can live through our future scenarios. We will then go through a design process called a Gurujadagi map to take our constructed personas and walk them through a day in the life of our scenarios. This highlights their strengths, challenges, what is the same, and what is different in this world to generate a narrative scenario. Finally, we will use narrative scenarios to help build experiential futures to get newcomers into the future world and to help them think about what it means. What are we bringing to the Futures Fair? We're bringing 5 to 7 insights per group for the Insights Gallery and 1 experiential future per group. An insight is a good weak signal, answering the questions what and so what. To this we add a 3rd section, asking and now what, which is like the juicy bits of an influence cascade written as a few bullets. Your group's insights will be featured in an Insights Gallery. Your insight will be printed out as a page of text with an added picture. In the Insights Gallery activity, there's a place for notes of connections to other insights from other teams and a place for some comments or new thinking on the insight. We will then take those new ideas back to our groups and have a little conversation about what they mean for our own scenarios. An experiential future is an immersive narrative experience meant to illustrate a possible future. You can also get a bit of lived experience from being in that future from them. They could take a variety of forms. They could be a TED Talk about a future you've discovered. They could be a Policy Ignite style presentation, which some of you may have done, with 20 slides paced at 15 seconds each. They could be a 3-minute video that weaves together a day in the life of our persona. Or they could be something more creative, like what we did in the Future of Asia project. These are 2 that we did for the Future of Asia project. One featured our director Duncan, who was a talk show host from the future. He did an interactive interview with guest stars, also from the future, talking about some of the future context of contemporary Asia. The second was a participatory sketch, where Martin was a police officer from a newly formed Thought Police unit with the help of a disembodied AI, voiced by Naomi, our graphic designer, as his collaborator and evidence AI. You can think of an experiential future as a cool interactive activity, or as a unique cultural probe that can more explore a future as a kind of holographic model of the future. Our design team here at Horizons will be working with each group to help get each team to a design they feel comfortable with.